$3.14 million. That's the number the judge said out loud before slamming her gavel, and I swear the sound echoed through my bones. The president of the West Maple Estates HOA, wearing his $15,000 Rolex and smug grin, muttered just loud enough for me to hear, "Guess even trash can get lucky." But luck had nothing to do with it. He and his developer buddies had built 127 homes, entire suburban streets, on my 84 acres of land while I was deployed overseas. They thought I'd never find out. When I did, they laughed in my face. They told me people like you don't understand how business works. They were wrong. And as I stood there listening to that verdict, $2.3 million in property damages, $800,000 in legal fees, and criminal referrals to the FBI, I just smiled, because I'd spent 2 years letting them dig their own grave. Here's what I did. My name's Derek Holt. I'm 47 years old, divorced, 2 kids in college, Eli, 21, and Cara, 19. I've been an HVAC technician for nearly 25 years. I drive a beat-up 2006 F-150 with 287,000 miles and a dent in the passenger door that's older than my daughter. I'm nothing special, but I had something special. Land. My grandfather, James Holt, bought 84 acres just outside Branson, Missouri in 1967 for $12,400. It wasn't much then, mostly woods and a creek, but he built a small cabin on it and worked the soil like it was holy. When he passed in 2012, he left that land to me. He always said, "Land's the one thing they can't make more of, Derek. Keep your papers, keep your pride." So I did. Every deed, survey, tax receipt, organized in a brown filing cabinet labeled Granddad's Land. After my divorce in 2016, I planned to move back there someday, retire, rebuild his cabin, maybe fish that creek again. But then, in 2019, I got a deployment notice with the Army Reserve, 3 years overseas. I left the property alone, figuring nothing could happen to 84 acres of trees. Turns out, I was wrong. I shipped out on March 4th, 2019. Before I left, I paid my property taxes $1,174 for the year, renewed the mailbox at the local post office, and told my neighbor, old Mrs. Reynolds, a retired school teacher, to call if anything weird ever happened. In 2020, during the pandemic, communication got messy. My unit moved between Qatar and Kuwait, and I only checked mail through the Army system. I didn't see the certified letters that started piling up back home. Letters from a group calling themselves West Maple Development. They were buying up surrounding lots, smaller parcels that used to belong to ranchers who'd sold out years before. My grandfather's land sat right in the middle. Then came the merger. The development was converted into a homeowners association named West Maple Estates, led by Gregory Kessler, a real estate mogul worth around $40 million. When I got back home on June 23, 2022, I just wanted peace. My body ached, I was 47, and I'd spent 3 years fixing air conditioning units in desert tents. I took a week off, then decided to drive down to the land, about 45 minutes south of Springfield, Missouri. It was a Saturday morning, July 2nd, 2022. The gravel road had been paved, the old gate was gone, there were street lights, and then rows of houses. Dozens of them. My 84 acres gone, carved into streets named Holt Creek Drive and Legacy Way. My stomach dropped so hard I had to pull over. There were 127 houses, by my later count, some half-built, some with kids playing in yards, people mowing grass. A big wooden sign read, West Maple Estates, a Kessler community. I stood there for a full minute gripping the steering wheel. Then a black Range Rover pulled up behind me. The man who stepped out looked straight out of a country club magazine. Perfect tan, silver hair, watch glinting in the sun. "Can I help you?" he said. "Yeah," I said slowly. "I'm trying to figure out why there are houses on my property." He smirked. "Oh, you must be that Holt fellow. We tried to reach you for years. Certified mail, public postings. You were gone. We assumed abandonment." I felt my jaw clench. Abandonment? I paid my taxes every single year. He shrugged, like it was nothing. Well, Mr. Holt, things move fast in real estate. People like you don't understand how that works. We're providing homes for 96 families. You should be grateful. Grateful. That word rattled around in my skull. I asked, "You know this land was never for sale, right?" He smiled again, hands in his pockets. "Our lawyers handled it. It's above your pay grade. If I were you, I'd walk away before this gets messy." Then he turned, got back in his Range Rover, and drove off. I stood there until the sun dipped low, staring at houses built on what used to be my grandfather's pasture. The next day, I called the county assessor's office. They confirmed it. The land was still deeded under James Holt, transferred to Derek Holt. No record of sale, no signed transfer, no quitclaim. And yet the development permits listed West Maple Development, LLC, as the owner. When I told the clerk, she whispered, "You might want to get a lawyer." That night, I drove back to my small rental apartment and pulled the brown filing cabinet onto the kitchen table. I spread everything out. Original deed of title, March 17, 1967. Transfer certificate, June 12, 2012, listing me as heir. Property tax receipts, 2013 to 2022. Every one stamped, paid. Survey maps, 1978, 1999, 2010. Photos of my grandfather beside the creek, smiling with his fishing rod. I spent 6 straight hours cross-checking parcel numbers and GPS coordinates. They matched. My heart was pounding the whole time. The next morning, July 5, 2022, I called 3 law offices before one took my case seriously. Ellen Price, a property rights attorney out of Springfield. She'd won 14 of her last 16 land dispute cases. When I brought her the documents, she sat down, flipping through every page with a pencil behind her ear. After 20 minutes, she looked up and said, "They built an entire subdivision on stolen land. You're sitting on a gold mine." I asked what to do next. She smiled, small, patient. "Just let them finish building." I blinked. What? If we act now, they'll claim it's a mistake. But if they keep developing roads, houses, utilities, they'll commit more documented fraud. The damages multiply. Every dollar they spend strengthens your case. I felt a mix of fear and awe. She said, "Just keep records, photographs, appraisals, everything, and don't contact them again. Let them think you're gone." I nodded. My hands were still shaking when I signed the retainer, $25,000 up front, the biggest check I'd ever written. That night, I stared at my grandfather's signature on that 1967 deed, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I truly understood what he meant by,
For the next 17 months, I lived 2 lives. By day, I fixed air conditioners in people's basements. By night, I documented a criminal conspiracy. Incident 1. Cease and desist. August 14, 2022. A courier dropped off a cease and desist letter at my door, claiming I was harassing homeowners. Apparently, standing on my own land counted as harassment. The letter came from Kessler and Reed Law Group, dated August 12, 2022, with the HOA's gold logo embossed. I sent it to Ellen. She laughed. "Good, that's intimidation. Document it." I scanned it, labeled it Exhibit 1, and slipped it into a binder. My hands shook as I did. That binder would eventually fill to 147 pages. Incident 2. Code violation fines, September 3, 2022. The county inspector showed up saying I'd been cited for illegal waste storage and unlicensed construction. He handed me a ticket for $4,800 in fines. The address listed? 127 Holt Creek Drive. My grandfather's old parcel, now a half-built model home. Ellen smiled when she saw it. "They're fining you for their own buildings. This helps our case." Incident 3. Facebook smear. November 18, 2022. A Facebook group called Keep West Maple Safe posted a photo of me standing by my truck. Caption: ex-con squatter trying to extort homeowners. It got 412 shares and 318 comments in 48 hours. Someone posted my old divorce records. I didn't sleep that night. Ellen's reply the next morning was calm. Defamation is proof of malicious intent. Save screenshots. I printed every comment, 120 pages, labeled Exhibit 4A. Incident 4. Job attack. January 6, 2023. My supervisor at Ozark Air and Heat called me in. He looked uncomfortable. Someone from the HOA board called, said you're under investigation. We're putting you on administrative leave. No pay. It lasted 11 days before Ellen faxed them a formal legal warning about interference. They reinstated me immediately. Every attack strengthens our narrative, she said. Still, my heart pounded for hours. I remember gripping my steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Incident 5. PI following my kids. March 4th, 2023. My daughter Kara texted, "Dad, some guy in a black Tahoe followed me from campus." She got the plate. 7BK3921. Ellen traced it to a private investigator licensed to West Maple Development LLC. We added it to the evidence list. "This crosses into criminal territory," Ellen said. "They're panicking." Incident 6. IRS audit. May 22, 2023. Out of nowhere, I got a notice. Randomized audit, 2020 return. I'd already paid everything, but the accountant charged $8,200 to handle the paperwork. When we dug deeper, the IRS agent quietly admitted someone had submitted an anonymous tip claiming I had undeclared property income. "That's retaliation," Ellen said. "We'll show it to the jury." I labeled the folder Exhibit 9C, Retaliatory Audit. Incident 7. Vandalism. September 12, 2023. I came out one morning to find red spray paint across my truck. "Sell out or die." The same day, my mailbox was smashed. The sheriff's deputy wrote a half-hearted report. When I told him about the land issue, he sighed. "You're going up against some big names, son. Careful who you piss off." I filed a damage claim, $2,700 with insurance, and moved my truck into storage. Ellen said quietly, "They're escalating because they know they're losing." Incident 8. Breaking and entering. December 28, 2023. I came home from work and found my door ajar. Inside, drawers open, files scattered. On the kitchen table, a note. "You're gonna regret this." I called the cops. They shrugged. No fingerprints, no leads. Ellen just said, "Perfect. Now it's intimidation plus obstruction." We had it all. Harassment, defamation, tampering, vandalism, and a fraudulent development worth over $48 million built on land they never owned. By February 2024, Ellen filed the lawsuit. Holt versus West Maple Development, Kessler et al. Total claim, $6.8 million in damages. 7. Smoking gun. On April 7, 2024, Ellen called me at 8:42 p.m. I'll never forget her voice, almost giddy. "We've got it." She'd subpoenaed internal emails from the development company. Buried inside a folder labeled "Permits Pending" was a message dated October 9, 2019 from Gregory Kessler to project manager Alan Drake. It read, "We're aware Holt still technically owns parcel 17B, but he's overseas. Proceed as planned. The surveyor will lose the original deed reference in the merge. Once the plat's redrawn, it's clean. They knew. They knew it was mine. Ellen burst out laughing. This is beautiful. Premeditated fraud, wire fraud, false filings, it's all there. I sat there staring at the email printout. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped it. That was the night I opened a bottle of bourbon and toasted my grandfather's photo. We got him, Granddad. 8. Courtroom. The trial began on July 15, 2024 at the Taney County Courthouse. The courtroom was packed. 96 families from West Maple sat in the gallery whispering. Kessler strutted in wearing a $3,200 suit, Rolex flashing under the lights. His lawyers filled 2 full benches. Ellen and I sat quietly. She leaned over and whispered, "He thinks this is about money. He's wrong. This is about proof." Judge Miriam Jacobs, age 65, took the bench. 30 years experience, no patience for nonsense. She said, "Let's get to the point." Kessler's lawyer argued that my grandfather's deed was outdated, that the land had been presumed abandoned. Ellen stood up, calm as a stone. "Your Honor, Exhibit 12A." She handed the smoking gun email to the clerk. The courtroom went dead silent as the judge read it. Her eyes narrowed. She said, "This says, and I quote, 'We're aware Holt still technically owns parcel 17B.'" She looked up. "So you knew?" Kessler's lawyer's face went ashen. Ellen pressed on, showing the tax receipts, surveys, Facebook smears, vandalism photos, each numbered, cataloged. Then she said, "Your Honor, the defense built 127 homes on land my client owns, falsified county plats, and used intimidation tactics to silence him. This isn't negligence. It's organized fraud." Judge Jacobs sat back, stone-faced. "Mr. Kessler, do you wish to respond?" Kessler stood, voice shaking slightly. "Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding. We were told—" "By whom?" the judge interrupted. He hesitated. "Our surveyor, who you instructed to lose the original deed reference," she said, holding up the email. Kessler's lips went white. The gallery started murmuring, homeowners whispering in shock. One woman actually gasped when Ellen projected the map overlay, my grandfather's property outline perfectly matching the subdivision. After a brief recess, Judge Jacobs returned with the preliminary ruling. Until ownership is determined, West Maple Estates is under injunction. No property transfers, no construction, no sales. She glared over her glasses. "And Mr. Kessler, if even one nail is hammered on that land, I will hold you in contempt." Ellen leaned over and whispered, "We just won the war."
A week before the verdict, on September 21, 2024, I stayed overnight at my buddy Rick's place. We were running final prep with Ellen for closing arguments. Around 2 a.m., my home security app pinged. Motion detected. The cameras showed a man breaking into my apartment, slim build, black hoodie, and a Rolex flashing under the porch light. He rifled through drawers, opened my file cabinet, and then looked straight at the camera. Gregory, damn, Kessler! He yanked a few folders, realized they were copies, and stormed out. By 2:37 a.m., the police had him in custody. Caught red-handed with burglary tools and stolen documents in his trunk. Ellen just sighed when I told her. That was his final mistake. The footage went straight into evidence. 10. Verdict. On September 28, 2024, the courtroom was packed again, standing room only. Reporters lined the back wall. Judge Jacobs came in, gray robe flowing, reading from a thick binder. In the matter of Holt versus West Maple Development et al., you could have heard a pin drop. She said, "The evidence overwhelmingly supports the plaintiff. The defendants knowingly falsified land documents, engaged in harassment and intimidation, and committed multiple acts of fraud. She paused, then looked directly at Kessler. Mr. Kessler, your arrogance is breathtaking. You believed wealth placed you above the law. It does not. She took off her glasses. Judgment for the plaintiff, $2.3 million in property damages, $800,000 in legal fees. Additionally, this court refers the matter to the Federal Bureau of Investigation for possible charges of wire fraud, mail fraud, and conspiracy. I didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Some of the homeowners started crying. Others just stared at Kessler in disbelief. He went pale, like all the blood drained out of him. His lawyers sat frozen. Furthermore, Judge Jacobs continued, the defendant's real estate licenses are to be suspended pending investigation. All assets tied to the development will be frozen. You could almost hear Kessler's empire cracking. Ellen squeezed my shoulder and whispered, "You did it! You actually did it!" But the truth was, I hadn't just beaten a man. I'd beaten a system that told me people like me didn't matter. 11. Mercy twist. 2 months later, the town hall meeting was about what would happen next. There were 96 families living in homes technically built on my land. They looked terrified. Young parents clutching kids, retirees sitting quietly, waiting to hear if they'd lose everything. A woman stood up, Sarah Chen, single mom, early 30s, tears in her eyes. "Mr. Holt, please, we didn't know. We just bought homes. What's going to happen to us?" I looked around that room, faces that reminded me of my own kids, people just trying to live decent lives. Ellen had already explained, legally I could evict everyone and reclaim the land. But something about that made my stomach turn. I took a deep breath and stepped up to the microphone. "Look, this land's been in my family for nearly 60 years. My granddad worked it with his bare hands. I don't want to destroy what's been built here. I just want to make it right." The room was silent. "So here's what I'm going to do. I'm creating the Holt Family Trust. Every homeowner gets to stay. You'll pay what you're paying now. No interest, no rent increase. Every dollar goes toward ownership. When it's paid off, the deed's yours." A murmur spread through the crowd, then applause. Sarah Chen started crying. So did an elderly man in the back who whispered, "Your grandfather raised you right." Even Ellen had tears in her eyes. We signed the papers a week later. The Holt Legacy Trust, 84 acres, 96 families, 0% interest, lifetime residency protection. And for the first time since this all began, I felt peace. 12. Resolution. Today, I still live on a small 5-acre corner of that property. Built a 2-bedroom cabin with my own hands overlooking the creek where my grandfather used to fish. I set up the James Holt Scholarship Fund, giving $2,500 grants each year to kids from those 96 families heading to trade school. A local news station ran a story about it. "Veteran wins land war, saves community." It went national. A year later, that story won a regional Emmy. Sometimes I still walk down Holt Creek Drive. Kids wave, neighbors smile. Nobody sees me as the enemy anymore. On my fridge, there's a drawing from a little girl named Emma, stick figures holding hands under a big yellow sun. She wrote in crayon, "Thank you for our home, Mr. Holt." I look at it every morning before heading to work, because that's what this fight was really about, keeping something worth more than money. Now, 96 families sleep safely on the land my grandfather loved, and justice, real justice, finally caught up. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had someone try to take what's yours just because they thought they could get away with it? Don't let them. Keep your papers, keep your records, keep your receipts, all of them. Because someday, those documents might be the only thing standing between you and someone else's greed. Drop your story in the comments. If you've ever fought back against an HOA, a corrupt boss, a shady developer, I want to hear it. And if you're just scrolling wondering whether truth ever wins, it does. Sometimes it takes time, sometimes it takes a war, but when it does, it's worth every second.